Hi everyone. Happy Sunday. Hope you're all having a brilliant day. A few things to get through. And let's have a chill Sunday podcast. Might do some call-ins afterwards. We'll see how the podcast rolls on. Hi Kathy G, Sean Jones, Emma, Joan, Annie, This Black Girl's Life, hey, Carol Lund, Swavely, is that? Hey Mina. All right. You know, I'm British, but I'm very engaged in American culture and American politics. It's been quite interesting to look at a lot of the posts surrounding this 4th of July and the 250th year of modern America, because America existed and its native people existed before its current state. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot of things. How's your 4th of July been? I know most of you listening to me are American. How do you feel? Because on the 250th anniversary of this modern America as we know it, you have a screaming orange dictator in office. So what's the current temperature for you? How do you feel? I genuinely want to know. What are your thoughts in this current moment? Because I have many thoughts, but I'm not American, so I'll let you speak. But nonetheless, despite all of just the intensity, we'll call it, even if you're not necessarily celebrating this 4th of July, I hope at least you're getting a restful weekend and unplugging away from some of the noise. Unfortunately, some of that noise has actually traveled over to the UK, and we're going to get into that. Oy. What can I say? Hey NoVD. Hey resistors. Okay, so the first thing, let's start with some gossip, shall we? Some gossip. Natasha Archer. Now, I said that I wasn't going to talk about Natasha Archer again, but I'm going to have to take that back. Well, I wasn't going to give Natasha Archer the free PR for her little business that she's doing. Her little business, her styling business, where she's going to be giving women stolen style tips from Meghan, the way she was giving them to Kate. But Natasha Archer has been stepping out with Prince William's former equerry. Ah, yes. Now, Natasha Archer, Kate's former stylist, her copycat stylist, was married to what's his name? Christopher something. Gosh, his name's just gone over my head. She was married to a royal photographer who photographs the royals, but Kate particular. He was one of Kate's favorite photographers. Chris Jackson. That's it, Chris Jackson. Now, they divorced last year. Would you call this a rebound? Because it's probably been a year or a bit since their divorce. But do you think this is a new romance or something that perhaps started some time ago? Because we know how people in these circles are. Who knows? But very interesting. And he's not a bad looking guy, the Aquari. Is it Aquari or Aquari? I don't know how to say that word properly. He's not a bad looking guy. Well, well, well. Anyway, that's that gossip of the day. Also, I've always said that royal protocol was a bunch of BS, that it first and foremost is used as a way of othering people who are not part of the aristo circle. So if you don't conform to this type of behavior, these type of mannerisms, these type of rules, they're basically just used to look down on you and as social markers to see who is not part of certain social groups and who is. Because it tends to be people within these social groups that know their stupid little rules. But we also know that those rules can change to keep you further out of that social group if you happen to try assimilate into that group. Either you go up a class in the class system, or perhaps you marry someone who's a class above you. And that's exactly what happened with Meghan. Meghan was ripped apart and bullied for wearing pants at Wimbledon, because apparently this isn't something that the Queen favors. The Queen doesn't like trousers. Don't know what that nonsense is about in the modern era. Could that just be because the Queen felt that she didn't look good in trousers? That's why she. I don't think I ever have I. Did I ever see the Queen in a pair of trousers? Maybe when she was young. I think there's that one picture of her holding a mechanical tool, and they were trying to make her look like she was helping in the war. Other than that, I don't think I've ever actually seen the Queen in trousers. Maybe she just felt she didn't look good in trousers, so she made up this silly rule that royal women couldn't wear trousers. And so because Meghan wore not only did she wear trousers, she wore wide pants into Wimbledon, and there's all types of stuffy rules about what you can and can't wear when you go to Wimbledon. White tends to be the traditional color. Also, remember that Meghan was in the VIP box with for Serena, because she knew Serena Williams, was friends with her for some time, and she actually wore jeans. So that was another thing that ripped her apart for. In comes Kate Middleton wearing wide pant jeans for her appearance at Wimbledon, and nobody bats an eyelid. In fact, they're probably singing her praises. Also, the slick back. Notice the slick back ponytail? That's also very signature Meghan. Not something we typically saw from Kate before. She either likes to wear her hair down, or like half up, half down, or like very princessy kind of hair. Also, when she was at Wimbledon, she was wearing what appears to be some kind of microphone. So some people are saying that she could be filming some kind of documentary, like maybe linked to the whole cancer diagnosis, and that could also be why she had a whole camera crew doing the trip with her when, you know, she just did the Three Peaks in the United Kingdom. But we've heard endlessly about how the royals, in fact, just this last week, there was all this briefing about Kate being absolutely terrified that Harry and Meghan are bringing the Netflix cameras. I mean, that's just so stupid. If somebody walked in to your home or was there with a camera or a camera crew, you just tell the camera crew to leave. Somebody can't film you like that and put it on a TV show without your consent. Apparently, this is the most terrifying thing. Harry and Meghan bring the Netflix documentary cameras. Just the stupidness and paranoia of these people, only for us to find out that they're potentially filming something themselves, it would appear. I guess that'll be seen sooner or later. Now, this rather strange incident that happened at Sandringham. Now, Sandringham is, I would say, in the top 4 of the most important royal estates. I would say Buckingham Palace, even though I would actually didn't note Buckingham Palace because the royals, it's not a place where they reside anymore. maybe like official engagements, but other than that, nobody's really going to Buckingham Palace. Then you have Sandringham, where they often holiday, the family meets, and when a monarch dies, typically that's where they would go. If you remember, Harry said in Spare that Meghan was denied going there when the Queen died. He was told that Meghan could not come. And then there's Balmoral, where they also have family meetings, and also Windsor Castle. So, with that said, Sandringham is a very important place for royals. So why was a American Confederate flag appearing at Sandringham? Now, I can tell from my American friends, I am only vaguely aware of what the Confederate flag represents because I'm engaged with American culture. If I was not engaged with American culture and I saw this flag, I would maybe assume that this was a flag for, I don't know, one of these small Pacific islands or something. It kind of has that look of one of those flags. I would not know what this flag is. So the fact that someone decided to take this flag and put it on a royal estate, it was 100% deliberate. You cannot tell me otherwise. Also, for your information, for those that don't live in the UK, right-wing groups typically just use the national flags, and being that most of the right-wing groups are concentrated in England, usually the English flag, which is the red cross on the white background, or they use the Union Jack, which is the United Kingdom's flag. Some of the very, very far right groups use a flag with the Nazi symbol on it. And there's also another symbol that some of them use. I forget the name, but it's kind of like this weird, like looking black anchor. But they do not use the Confederate flag. This is not something that I've ever seen from right-wing groups. And the fact that it would appear in a royal space, and one of the most important royal spaces, it definitely feels deliberate. And the fact that it would appear leading up to Meghan and Harry potentially coming back with their children is also very strange. And then, yes, you have the 250th anniversary of the US landing this week. Granted, there are some groups in the UK that are becoming very MAGA adjacent or inspired. But again, even with that, it is very strange to have a Confederate flag anywhere in the UK, let alone on a royal estate. So it begs the question, why was it there? Why was it there at a royal event? Let's open. I'm going to open this Feminagra article. I'm going to read a little bit more. But this is beyond unacceptable. And if you ask me, I feel this was aimed at Meghan. Sorry. Because it just does not make any sense. Okay, so from Feminagra, just when you thought the royal family could not possibly find new ways to embarrass themselves, along comes the Confederate flag at Sandringham, no less. During Saturday's sunset supper at Sandringham horse driving trials, a symbol synonymous with white supremacy and racism was thrown on the field, and somehow we're supposed to believe it was an accident. I also want you to just bear in mind that Andrew was at this event. They're trying to dress it up like he snuck in. How does a whole Prince Andrew sneak into an event? He snuck in. He didn't sneak in. He was 100% welcome there. Let's be clear, the Confederate flag does not just materialize at a royal estate in Norfolk by magic. Someone bought it, someone hung it, and someone decided it was acceptable to display it at an event tied to the king's own residence. The organizers have since issued an apology saying they are truly sorry that their actions were in no way malicious or racially motivated. That is just ridiculous. There are no shops in the United Kingdom that sell a Confederate flag. You would have had to have ordered this online and had it sent to the UK. There's no shop selling this flag. You won't find it. But when a symbol of hate appears in the orbit of an institution that spent years insisting it was very much not a racist family, while Meghan Sussex was run out of the country, the apology rings more than a little hollow. The timing is impossible to ignore. This happens just as Prince Harry and Meghan are preparing to return to UK soil with Prince RG and Princess Lilibet. A visit the tabloids have already turned into a circus, and now a Confederate flag at Sandringham. The message, whether intentional or not, is not subtle. So who approved this? Who allowed it? And why does the apology sound less like accountability and more damage control? Those are the questions the palace needs to answer, because at some point, mistakes stop being believable. It's not a mistake. Like I said, there are no shops in the United Kingdom selling Confederate flags. So somebody ordered this, had it delivered wherever it is they live in the UK. They bought it to this event, and they had it flown at this event. That's not a mistake. There would be no reason for this flag to be flown there. None. So Sophie competed in the trials. Andrew was also there to cheer her on. Andrew, who apparently snuck in. Maybe he was the one that snuck in the Confederate flag. The organisers wrote on Facebook, "We would like to sincerely apologise for the recent display of images featuring the Confederate flag. We now understand the significance of this symbol and the hurt and offence it represents to many people. We never intended to upset or cause harm, and our actions were in no way malicious or racially motivated. However, we recognise that intent does not lessen the impact, and we take full responsibility for this mistake. We are truly sorry and are committed to ensure this doesn't happen again." I mean, a Confederate flag doesn't end up at a royal event in England by accident. You know, King Charles himself said that, well, at least his PR speech that he read out said that he's a defender of multiple faiths. But you can't wear inclusion as a costume and put it in carefully crafted PR speeches if you don't mean it. Symbols matter. So how did this symbol of American hate towards people of color end up in England? How did that happen? And on a royal estate, and at an event where royals were taking part. I don't think it's enough to apologize. I think we need to know who bought that flag. Where did they even get it from? Mina, you said, I'll say this. Most black people don't really celebrate the 4th of July. Juneteenth is our celebration of freedom. Thank you for that input. Resistors, you said, taking the 4th of July with a grain of salt. Resting finished a book on my Kindle. She was a horse rider, so she must have worn pants. Well, I mean, outside of horse riding, did Betty wear pants? And wore trousers all the time during the 70s. That was probably her way of rebelling, and probably the only way that she could rebel. Flying any US flag at Sandringham without a US presidential visit is weird, but the Confederate flag is a message of hate and racism. And they would never, British officials, even themselves, would know to not wave this kind of flag at if the American president was coming. Trump's gone to the UK twice. You never saw the Confederate flag being flown. And you said, I am now living in France because for many reasons we could no longer tolerate living in the US. You're not the first person I've heard saying that. You know, you guys know that I'm out in Bali at the moment. A lot of people from the US have moved out here. A lot. A lot. There's a very, very big American expat community here, in Thailand, other parts of Southeast Asia. But I would say that Thailand and Bali, Indonesia, two of the main hubs. Black Lady said, my money is on Texan born and bred Jason Knopf. I don't think Jason was at this event, but I wouldn't put it past someone like him to, if they wanted to organize a stunt like this. Maybe the flag was given as a gift on the visit. But then how did it end up specifically at Sandringham, of all the places? Sounds like goofy courtiers were at work again. Who knows? Who knows? And do you remember that Caroline Graham, who's attached herself to the hip of Meghan's estranged father? I mean, she posed in a picture in front of the Confederate flag. Couldn't imagine being this proud to be a loser. Could not imagine being this proud to be a loser. All right. Next thing that I wanted to mention, Harris security. This all ties again back to Harris security and why Meghan and the kids are just not safe. Mind you, the Queen, who ensured that Andrew would get security, also in her final moments wanted to ensure, this is on record, that Harry, Meghan and their kids got security. The late Queen said it was imperative that the Duke of Sussex and the Duchess of Sussex continued to be provided with effective security against extremists in a letter from the palace written on her behalf, provided as evidence in the High Court amid Harry's current libel lawsuit against the Mail on Sunday newspaper. The letter, written by the Queen's private secretary, Sir Edward Young, was sent to the UK Cabinet Secretary, Sir Max Sedwill, following the Sandringham summit held by the Queen in January 2020. Per the outlet, the gathering of royal family members at the Queen's country home of Sandringham, Norfolk, was famously held to discuss Prince Harry and Meghan's future after they announced their intentions to step down from royal duties. They went against what it was that the Queen said and decided to make their own rules. Mind you, Sir Edward Young, I believe, is one of the creepy crawlers that Harry mentioned in Spare, isn't he? The wasp, the bee, the scorpion, the snake, the bat, the spider, the piranha, one of them. Wasn't he one of the ones that he labeled one of them? If the Queen said that Harry and Meghan needed security, and this is on record, and they've now gone against it, now that she's dead, that is saying something. I don't believe that the Queen would have ensured that Andrew would get security and that Harry and Meghan wouldn't get security. But for some reason, Charles and William and the others have gone against her word now that she's dead. And that to me says this is all down to jealousy and envy. They don't like the fact that Harry, Meghan, and their children get so much attention. And at the end of the day, that's all they care about in this royal institution. They don't care about what they're meant to stand for or what they could stand for, something for good in this modern era. Because quite frankly, we shouldn't have royals, period. It's outdated and silly. All they care about is just being popular. They don't care about being impactful or meaningful in any way. And they spent so much time being comfortable, clueless, and tone deaf that now that they're trying to make it look like they're doing something, holding chairs as William here is, lifting a chair up the stairs. I mean, this is quite the step up from smiling and waving here and there. Climbing mountains across the UK like Kate. Doing things while doing nothing. Because, I mean, good for Kate. She got out the house, got some exercise. But in the wider scope of things, what does this mean for the average person? The average person isn't going to be climbing peaks after cancer treatment because they likely got the most bare minimum level treatment and was on a waiting list for months. It is a shambles and a shame. The state of the NHS waiting list, even for people with cancer. And really, healthcare is a political issue that needs to be addressed through political avenues and conversation. If you want to talk about recovery, people still have to work through treatment. Yes, if you're very sick and you literally cannot work, you can get sickness allowance, disability allowance from the government, but it's bare minimum. So those are the type of conversations that would actually be useful. And those conversations need to be had with government ministers. Not Kate climbing up 3 mountains with her whole film crew to make herself look like some shiro, some super shiro. It's just very tone deaf. This is not the reality for the average person who goes through cancer treatment. It's just not. If she wanted to make a difference, there's other things that she could have done. But the royal institution in itself is part of the reason that it is there is to uphold this class system. So if you actually start doing things that are impactful or meaningful, you can't do that without questioning or dismantling the class system. This is the point that myself and many others were trying to make when I wrote the article about William and his homelessness crusade. Quite a few people wrote articles within the same vein of what I wrote about the fact that you can't talk about these issues without talking about the fact that you are at the top of the triangle of this big pyramid of inequality in the United Kingdom. And you can't separate yourself from that. And you can't talk about issues that affect people without actually reflecting on your place in this triangle, this pyramid. Where a very small group of powerful and wealthy people are at the top and everybody else is at the bottom holding up the people at the top. It is simply just not possible for the royals to actually do anything impactful. Because anything impactful would start with them questioning themselves. This is why they didn't like the Harry and Meghan documentary. Remember that part? Well, there are many reasons why they didn't like, but remember that part where James Holt who works with Harry and Meghan, he said, um, I'm paraphrasing here, but it was, he referenced this whole idea of royals being, anointed by God, and just that whole idea, and he said, with no disrespect to my bosses and colleagues, but in the modern era, that's just is rather strange. It was something along those lines, he said. Anywho, unfortunately, it would appear that Harry and Meghan, Meghan and the kids will not be coming. If they do come, it is said that they just may not come to London. But even then, this is again coming from the British press, and you can't trust everything that they say. I think we won't actually know until they do or do not come. And if they do come, it is not known if Charles will see his grandchildren. Guess we'll see. If they do come, I think that they won't come to London. But it is just an absolute shambles. An absolute shambles that Charles could not get himself together and make sure that his grandchildren and son and his daughter-in-law got security. This is just yeah, what can you say? Like, I am just lost for words. You can probably tell I'm just lost for words. What do I even say at this point? I mean, am I surprised? I guess not. I guess not. Even at the 11th hour, still nothing. Anyway, aside from being a mean dad, he's also going to be an attention-stealing father-in-law. Now, you know that Kate has her Together at Christmas carol concert every single year, right? Apparently, Charles is planning on having his own little shindig and get together this Christmas as well. Oh, yes. Now, mind you, the Together at Christmas concert has struggled with ratings, and at this point, I think they just use it as a way of getting photos. Kate comes with the kids, the family does usually come, but it has struggled with ratings over the years. Now, this started in 2021. It happens at Westminster Abbey. I believe it was actually organised by her staff on her behalf and handed to her as one of her signature events. I also find it interesting that the event itself is called Together at Christmas, because Meghan's cookbook was titled Together, Our Community Cookbook. Interesting. Now, Together at Christmas is staggered along. It's televised, but the ratings are bad. And the British press won't breathe a single word about those ratings. Now, this year marks the 50th anniversary of Charles's Prince's Trust, now called the King's Trust, now that he's king, to celebrate the Golden Jubilee anniversary of the King's Trust. They are having a Christmas concert. They announced it this week. It will happen on December 2nd for the first time ever. The King's Trust Carol concert in partnership with Cunard will be held in London's iconic Westminster Abbey. Now, it's funny because Kate's concert is usually pre-taped around the first week of Christmas. So, will they still have Kate's event? I think they'll still have it. Granted, it's pre-taped and it's usually then shown afterwards. I've seen over and over again how Charles and Camilla will just randomly whack William and Kate in very not so subtle ways. I think Charles and Camilla are actually very petty. And I can't help but feel like this is kind of being done on purpose to get back at Kate for some real or imaginary overstep or thunder stealing. And I think that Charles and the King's Trust absolutely knew that they were stepping on Kate's toes. They just don't care. Because I feel like there's other things that they could have done. Given what the Prince's Trust is meant to be about, helping the disadvantaged, helping young people, I just felt like there's other things that they could have done. Like, why don't you organize some kind of pitching event? And the people who pitch the best business idea, you can give them some money. Like, why don't you actually do something impactful? Yet another Christmas Carol concert that will probably bomb as well, by the way. It's probably going to bomb as well. Joan Garcia, member for 13 months. Frederick Douglass' book deals with 4th of July and slaves. Oh, I'll look into that. I'll put it on my reading list. Thank you. And thank you for being a member for 13 months. 30 months, sorry. 30 whole months. You're amazing, Joan Garcia. Clicker, you said the men in grey cannot do anything to Meghan and her children will not happen. Meghan is an international member of that weird monarchy through Prince Harry. She is an important figure to that firm. Not to the courtiers. I'm sorry to say, not to the courtiers. They couldn't care less. You could say that about Diana, and look at what happened to Diana. They didn't care. The men in grey are part of the institution that are behaving like a mafia at this point. And actually, because they see Meghan as a threat, they want her gone. So they personally couldn't care what happened to Meghan or her children. In fact, I believe that they are also advising Charles in a wrong way. So I believe the men in grey, they may not be able to physically do anything to Meghan, but they can pull strings to make things happen to Meghan. Is Camilla behind this too? I don't really think that Camilla has a lot of personal say in this, but do I think she's egging on Charles? Yes. Electrostorm, you said they are not safe anywhere in the UK. Her and the kids need to stay home. Terrorists have cars too. They know where Diana's grave is too. Yeah. I don't think they're safe anywhere in the UK. But if it's just a quick in out, I think they'll be relatively safe. It's not like they're staying for a very long time. All right. Is there anything else that I wanted to touch on before we wrap up? No, I think that was all for now. All right, folks, appreciate you all for coming. Please do enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have some downtime, chill, eat some good food, read a book, do some self-care, put on a Korean face mask, drink some matcha. and unplug. TV Audie said, were the men in grey responsible for the Archie incident in Africa? I mean, they weren't there. So who knows? But I always found that to be very, very strange. Who knows? I think there's a lot that's going to come out. I actually believe that this is just my theory. I'm not stating this as fact. This is my theory that Harry is waiting until Charles departs this earth to give us the second half of Spare, or whatever's going to come next after that. That's just my theory. And with that, I will wrap things up. Later, folks. Ciao.